Good morning, everybody. How are you? It's Friday. I'm Crafting Journey and also That Journey Chick on Instagram. Make sure you are following me on Instagram. I've been rocking the stories lately, getting better at it. Yeah. So, Friday dance, payday dance. Oh, yeah. Friday dance, Friday dance. Woohoo! Especially now that I worked 3 days this week. Well, this is my third day. Yesterday about killed me, I'm telling you. And I finally figured out what's going on with my physically, because like by the time I get home at night and do, last night, but both nights I had the worst headache, like around, like just after dinner, worst headache. Um, I figured out what's going on. Anyway, I'm gonna live. Yeah. Look what happened last night. Yep, it's finished. All done. I love the rabbit. Oh my God. So beautiful. You just want to pet it. Oh, pretty rabbit. Um, I'm going to add to my wall. I want to go to Walmart this weekend, see if I can pick up a few cheap frames and stick these in there. Because I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 unframed Alice's up there. We will go back to Alice Lost tomorrow on the Saturday edition of the morning show. So what else happened yesterday? Drum roll. This hat. I finished this hat. Okay, this is the exact same pattern as the Mocha Java coffee hat. I used this comfy cotton yarn, Lion Brand. I love Lion Brand. You guys have figured that out. 392 yards, and I had probably half of it left. I could probably make another one. It's just a double crochet in the round. Super simple. Super simple. Nothing complicated at all. But then when I got home from work, I had more yarn. Yes, but I ordered this for a specific reason. Bag a Day, I love Bag a Day. She's a YouTuber, Bag O Day. Just look it up. I love her tutorials, and she's got this beautiful hat that she did, this sun hat. So, and she did it with this ribbon yarn. So I ordered some of it. It's called Rewind. So, and she did it hers in like a tan. So I ordered some. I want to do this hat. This is it's called tape yarn. Again, it's Lion Brand. Yeah, so I ordered, Joanne had a coupon, or at least it was on sale. I don't remember, but I got it at a discount. So I needed 4 skeins of it. So this is what was in the package. And it's the color is rose. Oh, mahogany rose. I wanted a pinkish, not a bright pinkish. So I did start it. Here is the start to the hat. And I use yarn as my stitch marker. Just that's the way Bag a Day does it, and I kind of learned from her. So, and I'm using my wooden furls crochet hook. I think this is a furls. I don't know. Narita gave it to me. She's going to tell me if it didn't come from furls. But it's a very light wood. It's a 6.5. And since I don't have any diamond painting, I don't have my other diamond painting in front of you, I'm just going to sit here and crochet today while we chit-chat. How about that? And hopefully I don't mess up. It's a super simple pattern. I'm on the last increased row. Okay. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Okay, here we go. So, yeah, this is day 3 of me working, going back to work. So I'm working Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And it has been nice to see other people. I do enjoy that part of it. I don't enjoy the getting up early part. Well, I get up I've been recording the show the night before. Now, this is the morning. This is actually Friday morning because I was wiped out last night. Wiped out. Um, Maybe this won't work out because I'm trying to count at the same time. So I'm recording this morning, and if I'm late for work, whatever, I promised them donuts so that they won't complain that I'm late. Um, um, yeah, I'm just exhausted. But yesterday I had so much energy when I got home from work. I've been parking way out in the parking lot. So I think maybe I'm going to lose some weight here, finally. Because I'm vowing to become more active, and I actually have this little. My mind was working last night, and I have a proposal for you guys. Um, but let me mull it over and think it through. It does not involve dieting, so don't run, don't unsubscribe, please. We will not be dieting, but I want to become more active. Um, and yesterday, I walked all the way out to my car, and when I got home, I thought, I'm going to walk the dog. And I took Tootsie for not a long walk, but because my knee, stupid knee. I do start physical therapy next week. Um, One ring a dingy. We're going to count two. Um, so I walked her, and then I came home, and I thought, oh, I want to start this hat. And so I said, it's a beautiful day. I'm going to make myself a drink. I'm going to sit out in my lounge chair for outside and do some crochet. And yeah, the neighbor is got his daughter out there barefoot, adult daughter, mowing his lawn. Well, yeah, she hadn't started when I got out there, but apparently after I sat down, she decided, okay, I'm going to mow Dad's lawn. So he comes over, and I'm like, oh, hey, how you been? And he's petting the dog. He's like, oh, I've been in the hospital. I said, oh, what hospital? And he said, I was like, oh, that's the hospital I work at. And he's like, yeah, I was in the COVID unit. I'm like, back up, back up. Well, I wasn't anywhere near him. He was on the other side of the fence, and I didn't get up out of my lounge chair to go greet him. That's Phil, the guy that warned me about the raccoon. Anyway, so he's like, yeah, I got oxygen in the house. Uh, I'm like, okay. So I remember that he smokes, and I said, wow, this is a good way for you to stop smoking. He goes, yeah, it's not the way I planned, but it's going to work out that way. I'm like, well, that's good. It's going to end up well for him. He didn't look real sick. So, but meanwhile, I'm not getting any crocheting done. Then the lawnmower cranks up, and I'm like, ugh, okay, let's go back in the house. um, And then later on in the evening, I decided but I did start this. I sat in my recliner and started it. So, and this is a really interesting, it is called yarn, but it's this ribbon yarn. Look at this. It's a ribbon, and it feels, very like felt-ish, like a very thin felt. And I realized right away when I made my circle to start and I went to pull it tight and it ripped. I'm like, oh, okay. Note to self, this is very delicate. So, yeah, don't pull too hard on this yarn. But it's good for making hats and things you need to be a little bit sturdier. So I come in the house and I feed the dogs and settle down in my chair and start crocheting. And then I finally eat my dinner, and then the headache comes on. I'm like, oh, this is terrible, because I wanted to diamond paint. I'm like, I just can't. But I wanted to finish this thing. I really did. So I took something for the headache, and laid down and ate something with sugar in it, and then I felt better. So I'm thinking this is a blood sugar issue. I may have crossed over into diabetes. I've been pre-diabetic forever, and COVID may have just put me over the edge. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So that's the headache went away. After I laid in bed for a little while, I was just eating these chips that I absolutely adore. What are they called? They're popcorners chips. They taste like popcorn, but they're a chip. And oh, they're so good. And now I didn't eat the whole bag or anything. I just a handful. But then I felt better. So I laid there for a little while, and then I got up and I was like, the dogs are settled because they've had their treat. Jake is not whining at me. I'm gonna go finish this diamond painting. So I got Mickey on the horn, said hello to her because I had talked to her all day. I miss my girl. I miss having my long chats during the day, but I can't at work because, my coworkers are there. Not all of them. Like, there's only 4 of us there at a time because we're all doing 3 days a week. So I get off the phone with her and I'm like, I am going to finish this. So I was here till midnight and I finished it just right, like at the stroke of midnight. This thing gets finished. Yay! Do 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 do. I'm like, oh, and I felt so much better. Okay, we're back. I got out Alice Lost, put away the crochet. It's impossible to count and talk to you at the same time. I tried. It's much easier to diamond paint and talk. I say that now and then look at me having trouble. Anyway, I have to find one that has some glue in it. So what national day is it, guys? It's national. I don't remember. I chose one. There's so many to choose from. Oh, it's National Military Spouse Day. Guys, my daughter-in-law is a military spouse for 1 more month. My son's official retirement from the Air Force, 22 years, is in June. We're having a huge party for him. We're having a huge graduation party for my grandson. I mean, May and June are like cool months. Mother's Day is this weekend, and so cool. So if you know somebody that is a military spouse, these people are absolute godsends. They are saints. What they put up with. If you've got a loved one in the military, you'll know they are always moving. I can't tell you how many places my son has lived during his career. He spent a year in Korea. He 2 or 3 times in Iraq, Afghanistan, Turkey. He lived in Clovis, New Mexico, which, my God, Clovis, New Mexico is like, you're like, where is that? Well, Clovis, New Mexico is like very close to Area 51. It's like that kind of remoteness in New Mexico. And Guam, he lived in Guam. He's been all over the world. And these spouses have to just pick up and move, change their lives, get used to a new community, get their kids into different schools, maybe get different jobs, or change their careers, or not, I don't know, or just find another job within their career. It's very difficult being a military wife, not to mention the isolation you feel when they're deployed. My poor daughter-in-law and I spent a lot of time on the phone with my son deployed, because he went through a lot mentally, and we had, I had to help her get him through that. It was very difficult, very, very difficult. So tough job. And a lot of people don't survive it. My mother did not survive it. She was a military spouse and hated it. I lived in France. My sister was born in France. My father was stationed in the military in France. I learned a little bit of French. Parlez-vous français? um, I was very young, 2, 3 years old, so I don't remember any of it. They said I could speak it as fluently as a 2-year-old can speak French. I could speak French, but I don't remember a word of it except for what I just said. So, so thank a military spouse today if you know one, because it is, or just text them and tell them how much they are appreciated. Now, let's do judge, jury, and journey since we're like way into this today. Okay, so okay. One thing I did watch that was not shown to the jury, but I found interesting, because when you're watching these trials on YouTube, other videos come up, and I saw a video of them interviewing the police, same gal that interviewed interviewed Nicholas's mother. And I kind of felt sorry for her because she seemed very shocked and surprised that this is something her son had done. I just found that really interesting. She said that her son had the mind of a 15 or 16-year-old, and that that day he left without telling her. So he was gone, and she had no idea where he was. So, and she knew that he was dating, online Gypsy, and that he had gone to see Gypsy 1 or 2 times. So she contacted Gypsy and was like, "Where's my son?" So Gypsy kind of calmed her down. He's coming to see me. Anyway, then we get back to the trial. There's another detective on the stand. Oh, no, this is not a detective. This is a guy that works at the jail where Nicholas Godejohn is being held. And this is a really fascinating thing. So if you're in jail now and you want to have a visit, by anybody, you can do it over the internet, because technology. And there's this, like you have to register and make an appointment, but then they can put the person that's in jail in front of an iPad, and it's all recorded. Believe it's recorded. So, of course, we have a jail interview that took place with a journalist where Nicholas has this like full beard and mustache. He actually looks much handsomer with all of that than he does without it. Where he's explaining the murder, he said the darker part of him took over. He said it was like there was a devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other, and the devil was telling me to do it, and the angel was telling him just take her and run, take Gypsy and run. But the darker part of him was in love with the darker part of her. This is all quotes that he said. And yeah. And, and he had no problem telling the story, but his time was, apparently your time on these calls are very limited. And so he ran out of time, and the journalist's like, I'll catch you next time. Catch you on the fly. So that was kind of cut off. But I thought his verbal skills were very good, the way he was explaining his story. So the state rests. We're done with the evidence for the prosecution. So the defense moves a motion for directed verdict. They said there was no evidence by the prosecution that the defendant had the capacity to reflect or deliberate on committing this murder. I don't know. Anyway, denied. They're always denied. Yeah, very seldom do you see a directed verdict granted. It happens, but it's very, very rare. So now we see the defense comes out. And the defense brings on Gypsy. So all morning long, I got to listen to Gypsy Rose. Now, Gypsy is a beautiful woman now, 27 years old. Now, this trial took place in 2017, 2 years after the murder, um, at which time, she thought she was like 18 or 19 when she was really 23 years old, and now she's 27 years old. And she looked really good. If I remember, I'll pull a photo of her now on the stand and I'll put it up here for you to see. Now, if she could just get that nose fixed of hers, she'd be gorgeous. She got teeth, because her mother used to have her teeth pulled, and her teeth were just a mess. And so she's gotten her teeth all straightened out. She's got beautiful teeth now and long hair. And interesting, we listened to a reporter who said her observations during the time that Gypsy was on the stand. One of the female jurors, refused to make eye contact with her, never looked at her once. Now, I don't know why that was, because I was fascinated. I was like, whoa, what'd she look like? And then Nicholas didn't look at her either. They did not look at each other. And there was one point during the testimony where, and I've never seen this, it must be specific to that state that they do this, or maybe it was because of the cameras. One of the parties would say, we want to make a record. And when they'd say that, the judge would say, okay. So the judge would leave, the court reporter would leave, and all the attorneys would leave. Everybody would leave the courtroom and go to his office, or they would go into another room and leave the jury sitting there, leave the witness sitting there, leave the defendant sitting there. So I'm like, this is so weird. So I'm thinking this is the opportunity where these two are going to like make eye contact, where you're going to see like doves flying and heart emojis, whatever. Nothing. She can't look at him. Her hair is like, she doesn't look at him. He doesn't look at her. Like one time she kind of glanced over in his direction and then quickly looked back down. Couldn't look at him. But why would you leave? First of all, they brought her in and put her on the stand before they brought the jury in, because her legs are in shackles, and they didn't want the jury to see that, yes, she's in jail. She pled guilty to second degree murder and received a 10-year sentence. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that when we conclude the sentencing portion of, or the clip. I'll tell you a little bit more about that as the trial concludes. Okay. So 27 years old, she talks about how her mother controlled every aspect of her life. And her voice, she was not talking in that baby voice anymore. She had a very mature voice. And I thought, wow, very soft-spoken still, but not that baby talk that she would talk before. It was a much maturer voice. She said her mother forced her to be in a wheelchair. She had been in a wheelchair since she was 8 years old. And she said she always knew that she could walk, but she would never tell anybody because her mother had a court draw up papers to say that she was incompetent. And she felt like her mother would get that paper out and show the doctors, and they would all think she was crazy, that she really couldn't walk. So she never told anybody that she really could walk. She said they received financial gain from charities. That's why her mom did that. She thought she had cancer. a seizure disorder, muscular dystrophy. Her mother made her wear glasses and a hearing aid. She didn't need glasses and a hearing aid. She said she didn't realize how healthy she really was until she went to prison, or until she got arrested. That's when she realized how healthy she really was. Because you'll see during her interview, they don't show this to the jury either, but I watched the first part of it. She's asking for her medications, so they get her to a doctor, and she doesn't need the medications. She's thinking, oh, I have this seizure disorder, I need to take this medicine. And I don't remember if they actually gave her the medicine or not, but she didn't need it. No. She said in 2011, and this is before she, or maybe she had this 3-year online relationship with Nicholas. I think this may have been right before she started this relationship with him. She tried to run away in 2011. She went, she doesn't say why, but she went to Mercy Hospital, and then she went to a friend's house. But her mother figured it out. 4 hours later, her mother finds her, comes and gets her. She smashes her computer and her cell phone, chains her to a bed for 2 weeks, starves her, and kept hitting and punching her. What? And so, of course, the prosecution objects. This is not relevant, blah, blah, blah. And so the defense says, yes, it's relevant because she told Nicholas all of this. This is all knowledge that he had about her mother, and he wanted to rescue her from her mother. So the judge allowed this testimony. She said the whole thing was her idea. The murder was her idea. Nicholas went along with her plan. They had a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. Plan A was that, they were going to try to introduce him to her mother. So he gets a bus, comes to town. She meets him in front of this movie theater like he's a stranger. They introduce themselves to each other. They go watch, they sit by each other during the Cinderella. They sneak out to the men's room and go into the stall and have sex. And it turns out mother hated him. So plan A didn't work. Plan B or C, I don't remember which is which. The next plan was for her to get pregnant. So she thought, if I get pregnant, then my mom will have to accept my relationship with Nicholas. And then the last plan was to murder the mother. So they went with the last plan. I think they, when she didn't get pregnant after the movie theater incident, they figured, well, let's just go with the last plan. She stole the knife from Walmart because she was always in a wheelchair, so she could steal things. She said she stole baby clothes because she wanted to have a baby with Nicholas someday. So she would steal baby clothes. I guess, nobody's going to check if this girl in a wheelchair that looks sickly is stealing things. So she stole a knife. She said she didn't think any of the knives they had in the house would do the job. She stole $4,000 from her mother's safe, just over $4,000, so they could have money for the trip and stuff. And but she said it was the defendant that came up with the story that they were going to tell, that her mother had kicked her out, and she didn't have any place to go, and he needed to come get her. And so this was the story that they were going to go with. But I think this is why the defense put her on the stand, because she's like, no, this whole thing was my idea. He went along with it. She was really owning, the fact that, she planned her mother's murder. She owned it. She was very frank. She had nothing to lose. She's already in prison. What's she going to lose by telling the truth? So then they put on the rest of the day with a clinical psychologist for the defense, and then in rebuttal, the prosecution puts on um, a neuropsych a neuropsychologist to rebut what the clinical psychologist said. And this was so boring. Oh my God, so boring. Um, but I listened to it for the rest of the day. I don't think this is what gave me the headache, though. But I learned more about autism than I ever wanted to learn, really and truly. But so I now know that there is an autism spectrum, that there are 3 levels to the spectrum, level 1, 2, and 3. 1, the person can function adequately with support. They all require some level of support. Number 2, they continue to demonstrate impairment, even though there is structure, they're in a structured situation. They continue to show impairment. And then there's the 3rd, which is they have severe deficits in functioning. So this doctor, after all the testing, and at one point Nicholas is diagnosed with Asperger's. So what both of these doctors explained is Asperger's is not diagnosed anymore. They did away with Asperger's. So and the reason they did is because they have now, because autism is a spectrum, and Asperger's really falls on that spectrum as a level 1. So that you don't need the diagnosis of Asperger's. You just put them in as autism level 1. So so he did all of this testing, and he tested his IQ, which was average to low average. He didn't have any cognitive disabilities. This was the defense's clinical psychologist. It tested him for 4 hours over 2 appointments. During his lifetime, Nicholas only had one job that he kept for 13 months. He would hold up a pizza sign. That's the only kind of job he could keep down. So he was on Social Security disability for his autism. And he said he has no job skills. He will never be able to hold down a job. That he needs reminders for grooming and hygiene. He shows a lack of self-care management. He has poor eye contact. Impaired reality perception. He had an IQ of 82, which is really just below average. I mean, like you have this bell curve, and 100 is like the middle. There's everybody here that's above average, and 100 is average, and then there's all these below averages. So 82 is just below average. But anyway, after all this testing, this doctor felt that Nicholas was on the spectrum at level 2, that he required substantial support, that he needs structure, supervision, and that if he didn't have that structure and supervision, he could pose a danger to himself or others. And I'm thinking, yeah, prison. Yeah, that's good structure, isn't it? Then the neuropsychologist came on. He did 4 hours of interviews and 11 hours of testing. This guy was really good looking, had a lot of interesting things to say, repeated a lot of what we just heard. So and now the jury's hearing this late in the afternoon, and they're all like, well, at least I was. I'm like, I've heard enough. I know what autism is. I'm done. Okay, he's autistic. We get it. But his conclusion after the testing was that he was a level 1. So we've got one guy saying he's level 2, one guy saying he's a level 1. Okay, yes. But what we know after both of them is that Nicholas is pretty high functioning. He has a low to average IQ, but he's pretty high functioning. Like, we know that he got himself on a bus. Here's what the prosecution pointed out. We all know someone who's autistic, and there's different levels of severity of that. But one thing that we know about autistic people is that they don't do well with change, or they don't do well in social situations. And you could, if you look back at the surveillance, he's waiting in line for the bus for a very long, long time, and he does very well. He doesn't react when he goes to the bus station and they say, no, you can't get on the bus. If you guys want to go together, you have to take the bus the next day, and they have to get the tickets. No reaction. He pays for the next ticket. They go back to the hotel. None of he does well in all these social situations. He goes back to the hotel, books the room. No awkwardness that I could see. He looks down quite a bit, but so there may be some lack of eye contact there, but he certainly can handle himself in these social situations. So is he able to make decisions? Is he able to deliberate committing a murder? Does he know right from wrong? I don't know. So, well, I mean, I think so. I think so. But, and Nicholas is 29 years old, I believe. Yeah. So, tomorrow is the Saturday edition. I will do closing arguments on Monday. Monday, you're going to hear the closing arguments. Tuesday, we'll hear the verdict. Yay! And then we move on to another trial. Yay! Long Crime seems to be covering a lot of trials, newer trials, so I'll see what they've got planned next week. So, what day is this in history? This day in history, Beethoven debuted Symphony Number 9 in Vienna. Now, what was unique about this symphony is that it was a long piece of work. It was also known as the choral symphony. There was a lot of he did it so that there was some solos in there. There were, there was a whole chorus that goes along with this symphony, and it's an hour and 20 minutes long. And I listened to a little bit of it. I like. This is one of those things like I would want to lay in bed and just kind of have like this Zen time and listen to the whole thing, because I love to listen to orchestral music, and listen to the various instruments, the flutes, the oboes, so cool, the bassoons. I tried playing the oboe, made my cheeks hurt, like TMJ. I played the flute for a year. I still have a flute. But, and I played in an orchestra, but never the Symphony Number 9 by Beethoven. But so this day in history, and it was in 1824. Yes. The Ninth Symphony in Vienna. So you need a full orchestra and a full choir to hear this Ninth Symphony. And like I said, and you need like a couple hours of your time, because it's a long one. Anyway, I've yammered for a long time this morning. I got to get to work. I love you all. I will see you tonight. I'll be in Mickey's chat, Mickey Sunshine Creates, 7 p.m. Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. I love you all. DP Addiction Adventures at 9. Take care. See you tomorrow in the Saturday edition.